Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a way of respecting, honoring, and creating awareness about our past, we begin our village board meetings by acknowledging that New Paltz is on the ancestral land of the Munsee, Esopus, and Lenape people. And as per usual, please check out our agendas and our minutes for ways in which we can support Indigenous communities. We have a few suggested links below, but we would love for you all to suggest more to us. So reach out and help us build this list.
Okay, so a couple things we're going to add to the agenda. So there's nothing new to be added to the consent agenda. And then we have a couple of items to include on the business agenda. Item number 5 is a resolution regarding expanding membership for our boards and commissions. And then item number 13 is a second bills and claims resolution. Oh, and I skipped over item number 10. It's an intermunicipal agreement between the town and the village. So that is all I have as far as changes or additions to the agenda. I motion to move it as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
And while we're at it, I'm going to motion that we move the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then announcements. We had a successful and interesting tour of the water treatment plant, aka the sewer plant, last week. We had a few folks from the community, and Stana and Autumn were there, and we had a great tour led by our plant operator, Chris Jaeger. And we're going to do something similar on Friday, July 1st at 1 p.m. up at the water plant if anyone wants to go. And a second announcement is, this is years in the making. We're going to start the water main replacement on Prospect Street tomorrow. This project will be done in fewer than 60 days. It should be done in approximately 45. And that will include all new blacktop for Prospect from Main past John all the way to Henry W. And then we still actually have a grant award to replace the sewer mains on that street as well. And we're looking at sidewalks. So the next few years, we might have a completely new Prospect Street. And then a third announcement is UACT will be gathering in Peace Park to encourage folks to vote, kind of a get out the vote effort on Saturday, June 25th. They'll be there from 3 to 5 with canvassing materials to encourage our residents to vote. Any other announcements?
Just a couple of the usual ones. Yeah, so with that, get out the vote effort, I think it's worth also mentioning, because we have a bunch of elections coming up, some important dates. So we're in early voting for the primaries. The primary election day is June 28th. The really important one for us is the special election for our congressional seat, and that's taking place on August 23rd. So August 23rd is probably the most important thing to keep in mind for now. A couple other quick announcements. Then, in terms of harm reduction, the Never Use Alone hotline can be texted or called anytime. It's 800-484-3731. We have Narcan trainings available literally anytime online at opioidpreventionnt.org. You can get access to Narcan and other harm reduction services like fentanyl test strips and other types of drug test strips anywhere in Ulster, delivered to you. You don't even need a car. You can text or call 914-610-5324. And the free food fridge at 25 Plattekill Avenue, right outside where we're sitting right now, is open 7 to 7 days a week. If you're hungry, stop by, and volunteers are needed. So for more information on that, go over to millionsofbutterflies.org/free-food-fridge. And it looks like Terrence is trying to get in.
So yeah, the early voting that's going on, you can vote right here at the community center in town on 32, or just off 32, I should say, on Veterans Drive. And you can just Google Ulster Board of Elections, and all of that information is there. I also wanted to let people know that the Ulster County Office of the Controller put out a racial equity report for the county. It has all kinds of really interesting in-depth information, and I am going to make sure that we have the link to it on the minutes and the agenda. Yeah. So I really do encourage folks to have a look and see it what all the different impacts at different levels are for BIPOC folks, and to try to see things through a broader lens that in this case is somewhat narrow, but really shows how things affect folks maybe that don't look like you in a different way. And so that we can all continue to awaken to reality and try to be as anti-racist as possible.
Thank you. Did we get any public comments on any other topic?
No, but we got one RSVP for the water tower tour.
Nice,
And I'll be there.
great. Do you guys want to go? Well, we kind of addressed business agenda item number 1.
Yep.
So let's move right into Anton Stewart has joined us. Anton's been an invaluable member of our Public Access Committee for several years, and most recently Anton and Bob Fagan and probably others from the Public Access Committee have taken on the chore of reimagining our town and village franchise agreement, because the village cable franchise agreement has expired and the town's franchise agreement will expire in 2025. So we got a draft from Spectrum, and what we would like to do is submit our own draft back and ask them for comments. So Anton met with a group of us recently and highlighted a few of the points that we would like to see in a new and improved, updated town and village franchise agreement. So I thought we would invite Anton to a public meeting and share with the community, because this is definitely a hot topic that many people have many questions about, and very appreciative of the deep dive that Anton and Bob and others took regarding this first draft. So handing it over to you, Anton. Tell us what's different and what we hope to accomplish.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, and thank you for asking me along this evening. Basically, the franchise agreement that you all should have, I believe I copied everybody into the second draft for the village board. It's based loosely on the existing town franchise agreement, with some reworking. Basically, is the long and the short of it. So pardon me while I refer to my notes, and I'll try and give you a brief run through of what's changed. There's an awful lot of legalese in this, necessarily, unfortunately. But the first thing that we started out with was defined terms. And we've thrown in there basic internet, which basically means basic high-speed internet access is provided in the lowest price service tier of cable internet, furnished as a wired connection. Basic service remains the same, but we then go on to point out the cable internet service. The main thing that we've got here is the municipality shall treat cable internet services as a cable service unless it is definitively determined under applicable law that cable internet service is not a cable service, in which case the company shall obtain a separate communications franchise from the new municipality. So basically what that is, as you are probably well aware, there's been a huge cable cutting sort of trend of late. More and more people are receiving their media via streaming services. So the role of the cable company has changed fundamentally from just being a provision of channel entertainment, TV entertainment, and music services into really a predominantly cable internet provider, which also provides programming and provides the self-same programming as over-the-top services via their own app, etc., etc. So somebody who subscribes to I beg your pardon, to Spectrum, they would also receive access to the Spectrum app and can see programming wherever they are on whatever device they're watching on. So the only thing we've not been able to roll into gross receipts, which is what we're calculating the franchise fee on, is effectively over-the-top streaming services, because then you'd be anti-competitive with the likes of Netflix and I don't know, Hulu, Apple TV, etc., etc. All of the over-the-top streaming services, which the village or the municipality, the town, certainly don't take a cut out of. So we can't sort of include that in the calculation of gross receipts for the calculation of the franchise fee. But the other thing is voice over IP telephony as well. That is separate, and so that's not included. So we've gone on to basically explain gross revenues shall mean all revenues derived either directly or indirectly from the provision of cable service provided to subscribers of the municipality. Additionally, revenue from local advertising, leased access programming and home shopping shall be included and shall be calculated on a pro rata basis using the number of subscribers served in the municipality. Gross revenue shall not include 1, voice over IP telephony services, or 2, over the top media streaming services, or excise taxes, sales taxes, bad debt, etc., etc. So that's the fundamental change there. In other words, we are now expecting in this draft agreement for the cable company, Charter Spectrum, to be paying a franchise fee on everything, on cable internet, which they haven't been so far. And I think that's going to make a significant difference in terms of receipts for the municipalities. The other thing that we addressed is from customer feedback, frustration really within the town and the village of the customer service from Spectrum. And if I can find it, I think we've basically expanded Part B on Section 14. And this is the part where subscribers in the... Actually, let me go to Section 11 first, because that was the other thing. So we've added in Section 11, Operation and Maintenance, Part E, the company shall provide a dedicated and easily accessible single point of contact for all customer service needs of subscribers within the New Paltz community. Such point of contact may take the form of a local office service centre, correspondence address, telephone number, online portal, email address, etc., and will ideally be a combination of all of these. Directions on how the dedicated point of contact may be accessed shall be clearly and conspicuously included in all communications sent by the company to its subscribers. So Spectrum have recently opened an office. I say recently, it's probably been about a year now, up on Tops Plaza there, next door to Tops. So that, may be a place where people can get some answers to questions that they have, because phoning Spectrum is always an entertaining experience, shall we say. So another thing, and certainly I know Bill was asking about this particularly, the senior citizen discount. So we've expanded Part B now to do this. We've removed the grandfathering in. We've actually to be honest, for what this is going to cost this company, I would strongly suggest it's a fair and reasonable thing to do. So, subscribers in the New Paltz community who are currently 65 years or older, as of the effective date, or are handicapped persons as defined in 45 CFR 1181 spot 103, shall receive the following discount: 1 free month of service equivalent to their current plan following any consecutive 12-month period for which timely payment is made, i.e. no late payments. The company shall ensure that qualifying subscribers are able to register, apply for the discount by means of the dedicated points of contact as described in Section 11 Part E of the agreement, and will further ensure that all employees, contractors or agents based in said points of contact are fully aware of the existence of this discount and are suitably trained and empowered to be able to apply the discount to a qualifying subscriber's bill. Once registered, this discount shall be automatically applied to the qualifying subscriber's bill going forward. The other thing we added was a service outage thing. In the event of prolonged service outage where such outage exceeds 6 continuous hours, the company will automatically provide to the subscriber a pro rata credit equivalent at minimum to the company's normal charge for the services, regardless of course, unless said cause for service outage is directly attributable to the actions or negligence of the subscriber or their agents. I'm sorry, I'm breaking the teeth in for a friend. Okay, so any questions at this stage before we dig into section 15, which is the PEG access stuff? Because this has changed completely.
I just wanted to mention that idea that we would include retro payments for the seniors, and we discussed this idea of probably doing that via a separate rider as opposed to baking it into this agreement. And I thought your suggestion along those lines made good sense.
Yeah, it's very difficult, I think, to have a retroactive franchise agreement. I think certainly that should be part of the negotiation, because there's a lot of people who have been banging their head against the wall for a long time. I know you and particularly Bill have received a number of complaints, communications from frustrated subscribers who try to get their discount and are told what discount doesn't exist, there's no such thing, etc., etc.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm pleased to share that the representative from Spectrum, Kevin Egan, has verbally reassured me that they would be comfortable providing us with that retro payment for our seniors, assuming that we agree to a new franchise agreement. So,
Okay.
to
That's
your point, it will be part of the negotiation and considered, as we're, reviewing the draft that you guys worked on, and we will send over.
okay. So for the next big change, which is section 15, public educational and governmental access, PEG channels and services. So part A is pretty much exactly the same. Access channels, the company shall make available PEG access and comply with the standards set for PEG as required by the regulations of the New York State Public Service Commission. Any PEG channel should be shared with other franchising authorities served by the company's cable system. The company shall indemnify, save and hold the municipality harmless from and against any liability resulting from the municipality's use of the PEG channels for municipal access. In other words, there can be no copyright claims or anything like that against the municipality for the use of the channels or whatever content is broadcast on those channels. So so we've got some changes now. So part B, throughout the time of this agreement, the company shall, at its sole expense, provision and maintain the facilities and equipment necessary to permit the transmission of a television signal to the company's head end to permit distribution on the PEG access channels from the following locations. And we just discussed those, and I believe it's going to be 25 Plattekill Avenue, Clearwater Drive, where the current town hall is right now, the community centre, the high school and the middle school, and I don't think we've missed anything else. Is that correct?
Yes, that seems accurate.
Okay.
Is,
So
sorry, Anton, is the firehouse, the new firehouse included?
not as a place where you would send the head end from, to broadcast from there. But if you want me to, I mean, we come to providing basic cable. We've also added that basic internet will be provided as part and parcel to, and the firehouse is included in there, as is the courthouse, as is any schools. So that's a change as well. I haven't quite got to that bit yet, but we'll get there.
But
So
Anton,
yes,
I have a question. So I'm curious what you think about this, because Bill's question is, should we include the firehouse? Because our new firehouse will be an EOC, an Emergency Operations Center. So might there be some advantage to having the capability to broadcast from the EOC?
I would think, if that's a question, unless we've got some, coordinated means of providing emergency messaging, then yeah, why not? Why don't we include that? I mean, it's a very simple thing to do by today's standards. So yeah, we should include the firehouse then.
Yeah.
I will do so. You want to throw in the police station at the same time, or?
Well, they're right next door. But I think technically the firehouse, I think they're both actually EOCs, but per the grant award we received to construct the new firehouse, it is deemed an EOC by New York State. But yeah, I guess if you're saying it's not that heavy of a lift to include it in both, or to ask for both, it probably would make sense to include both fire and police.
So I'll say then emergency operations centers as is designated then. So yeah, all right. Well, we can do that. All right, let's jump back to Peg then. All right. So the company may, at its sole discretion, determine the specific mechanism or methodology employed to permit the transmission of PEG channel signals to the company head end, provided that 1. It shall provide the ability to distribute PEG channel programming via the company's cable television system in real time, live broadcast. 2. It shall not degrade or otherwise affect the PEG channel signals in any manner which negatively impacts subscribers' viewing experience. And 3. It shall be developed, maintained and upgraded to ensure it remains fully compatible with current and future standards and technologies adopted by the company during the life of this agreement. So, I think that says what needs to happen. We're not telling them how to do it, but what works right now doesn't work. So, it needs revisiting. So D, PEG access channels should be carried on the basic cable service tier. All right, E is going to be probably something they choke at. The PEG access channel should be included in local video programming offered to subscribers as an over-the-top media streaming service. So, if you've cut the cable but you still want to see local programming, you should be able to do that, and the PEG access channel should be included. If Mrs. Smith wants to watch her daughter in a softball game, so be it. She should be able to do that. The municipality may designate a community access organisation to manage the use of PEG access channels. Such an organisation shall establish and enforce rules to ensure non-discriminatory access for users. Basically, that's NPZ TV Channel 23. So we need to come up with an agreement there to manage and run the channel, basically, which is our non-profit we formed. The company shall provide the municipality, its designees or assigns the facility to include PEG access channel programming in the cable channel guide. The reason we ask for that is you can't time shift programming unless it's actually included in the cable channel guide. That's how the DVR works, and people like to do that. So that's something we think they'll choke on, but we're asking anyway. H, the company shall not rearrange or reassign PEG access channel numbers without 1, providing the municipality with a minimum of 90 days written notice of its intent, and 2, affording the public all adequate and due notice and opportunity for comment in public proceedings. We can't tell them what channel we need to be on. That's their decision. We're 23. But what Spectrum have been doing of late is doing something called Digital Siberia and bouncing, the peg channels up into the tens and 20,000. So you'll never find it because it's not included in the program guide. So there you go. So we're not saying they can't do that. We're just making it difficult for them to do that. 90 days written notice and a public hearing. All right, so this is a change then. Section 16. At the moment, the franchise agreement says maintain a free of charge service outlet basic cable service, yeah? But now we're including basic internet. So the company shall provide and maintain free of charge a single service outlet offering, at minimum, basic service and basic internet to each state accredited public school, firehouse, police station, courthouse, municipally occupied building located within the municipality which is occupied for governmental purposes as agreed to herein, or as may be reasonably requested by the municipality within 60 days after the effective date of this franchise. And then it goes on to say, providing it's not more than 200 feet away from the closest drop, in which case, there may be additional charges for doing that. But if it's within 200 feet, there you go. You're doing it. So that's, I think, that's the long and the short of it. You obviously got right to inspect their records with notice, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in here which is not in their franchise agreement, and I would suggest that we run it past the lawyers. We've agreed, or I believe we're no change to this. We're talking about 3.5% is the franchise fee, which is no change. But bear in mind that's total gross revenues, which now will include cable service.
If they agree to it. But I really appreciate the fact that your interpretation of what that should include, unless they can prove otherwise, should absolutely include both cable TV and basic cable internet.
Well, I mean, you can't provide what they're providing without the cable television system infrastructure. It's all done over that. So it's like saying, oh yeah, we're going to pay for this. And I have reason to believe they've been collecting franchise fees for cable internet all along anyway. They've just not been paying them. So that's something we might want to dig into. I think it's a matter of time before it came about. And
yeah, that's fascinating. Okay, this summary has been super helpful, and so our next step will be to take the draft that your team worked on, show it to our village attorney, and then share it with our friends at Spectrum.
Yeah, I think a coordinated approach through both town and village at this time, and I know Supervisor Bates he's already looked at this and he's well happy. I know we got feedback regarding the senior citizen discount, so we've done that. But assuming he's okay with all of that, when you're all sorted at the village, perhaps we can do a coordinated thing. And
100%. The only way we're approaching this is if it's a joint town and village franchise agreement. We don't want two franchise agreements. We want one, because we know that when the terms are different for both, it just creates a lot of confusion within our community. So we do this regularly with the town and the village. We work on agreements, and then either one of our attorneys review it, and sometimes both of the attorneys review it, and then we proceed. But 100%, this is a joint, or it will be an agreement for both of us, but they will be identical.
Right. I think that's important. Yeah. Oh, well, that's me. Unless you've got any other questions for me.
Just so much gratitude. Thank you, Anton.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for doing all this hard work.
Okay, so I guess you'll be in touch when your attorneys have had a look at it next.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Thank you very much for your time.
bye. Okay, so the next agenda item is our resolution memorializing LGBTQIA and Pride Month. I'm going to hand the baton over to Alex.
Oh, great. Thanks, everyone. Should I read it?
Yeah.
I'll do my best. Okay. So it's our annual, Pride resolution, designating, memorializing June 2022 as LGBTQIA plus Pride Month. Whereas in June of 1969, patrons and supporters of the Stonewall Inn in New York City staged an uprising to resist the police harassment and persecution to which LGBTQ plus Americans were commonly subjected, marking the beginning of a movement to outlaw discriminatory laws and practices against LGBTQIA plus Americans, and that LGBTQIA plus people continue to suffer discrimination, hostility, and exclusion at almost every level of society, including in areas of housing, education, employment, healthcare, family law, immigration, and marriage equality. And whereas LGBTQIA plus Pride Month has been celebrated each year since in the month of June to honor the commitment of the LGBTQIA plus pioneers who fought for civil rights in the 1969 Stonewall riots in Manhattan, a critical tipping point historically for the community in the United States. And during this month, we celebrate the progress we have made in creating a community more inclusive and accepting of LGBTQI plus people. And whereas throughout much of the history of the United States, same-sex relationships were criminalized in many states, and many LGBTQIA plus people in the United States were forced to hide their identities while living in secrecy and fear. And whereas on June 26, 2015, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled in Oversell versus Hodges, 100, I guess I don't need to read the whole court thing, sorry, that same-sex couples have a constitutional right to marry and acknowledge that, quote, no union is more profound than marriage, for embodies the highest ideals of love, fidelity, devotion, sacrifice, and family, end quote. And whereas the village of New Paltz made history in Peace Park on February 27th, 2004, as the location of the first same-sex marriages in the country outside San Francisco under former Mayor Jason West, who was subsequently arrested. And whereas New Paltz has been hosting the annual Hudson Valley Pride March and Festival in June for going on 2 decades. And in continuation of this tradition, served as a leader in this year's Hudson Valley Pride Coalition, which planned the March and Festival held in our community. And whereas LGBTQIA plus people in the United States face disparities in employment, healthcare, education, housing, and many other central areas central to the pursuit of happiness in the United States. And whereas many states have no explicit ban on discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity in the workplace, housing, public accommodations, and many states have no explicit ban on discrimination against LGBTQIA plus individuals in education. And whereas LGBTQIA plus people, LGBTQIA plus youth especially, are at increased risk of suicide, homelessness, and being targets of bullying and violence. And whereas the LGBTQIA plus community has faced discrimination, inequality, and violence throughout the history of the United States, and whereas LGBTQIA plus people in the United States, in particular transgender individuals, face a disproportionately high risk of becoming victims of violent hate crimes and higher likelihood of being homicide victims. And whereas in 2009, President Barack Obama signed the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act into law to protect all people in the United States from crimes motivated by the actual or perceived sexual orientation or gender identity of an individual. And whereas despite being marginalized throughout the history of the United States, LGBTQI plus people in the United States continue to celebrate their identities, their love, contributions to the United States in various expressions of pride. And whereas the inclusion of LGBTQIA plus people in the United States continues to expand every day, and LGBTQIA plus people and their allies in the United States remain determined to pursue equality, respect, and inclusion for all individuals regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. And therefore be it resolved that the Village of New Paltz Board of Trustees declares June 2022 LGBTQIA+ Pride Month and memorializes it as such in this resolution as a symbol that we stand as allies in an intersectional LGBTQIA+ movement that continues to struggle with ongoing issues of racial and economic justice in a global pandemic, which has prevented us from marching together since 2019 until this past June 5th, 2022, which marked the first Pride March in way too long. And be it further resolved that the Village of New Paltz Board of Trustees stands committed and united to help break down the walls of fear and prejudice, and will work to build a bridge to understanding and acceptance until all LGBTQIA+ people are afforded the same rights and responsibilities as all Americans. And be it further resolved that the Village of New Paltz Board of Trustees hereby calls upon residents, employers, public officials, and all community members to work together to promote equal rights for all, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity, and does further encourage all to observe the month of June with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities that celebrate our diversity and recognize LGBTQIA+ Americans whose many and varied contributions have enriched our lives. And be it further resolved that we direct this resolution to be passed on to all the higher up elected officials. And yeah, so I motion to pass this resolution.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Thanks
you,
very
Alex.
much, Alex. Very, very important words. Thank you for taking that on.
Thank you for giving that space, guys. Thanks a lot.
So our next item is an update on the community choice aggregation and situation that we found ourselves in with the energy supply company, Columbia. So they were trying to bail on our community and several of the neighboring communities. So what we did was we filed a complaint against Columbia Utilities, basically seeking a restraining order so that they would continue to provide our neighboring communities with the cost of generation that we contracted with. We contracted with Columbia so that we could buy power at 6.5 cents. And then they subsequently turned into a floating rate once prices escalated. So this was considered very successful in that the judge agreed with us that we would have time up until I think the middle of August, where basically the defendant in this situation, Columbia, will now have to pull together information because we're going to anticipate having a hearing where the judge will hear the two sides. So that was considered a big win for us as plaintiffs and communities against this energy supply company. So what we needed to do is just motion as a board that we were on record saying that we were comfortable agreeing to this extension to give them time to respond. But this was definitely considered a win for us. So my motion is that we're in agreement with this resolution. Now, you guys already have copies of it. I just want to make sure. We just need to be on record that we're good with it as a board. Donna seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks,
Are we-
Bill.
Are we going to, are they now, did I read something else saying that they're looking into going, sorry, the word escapes me because I was feeling a little declamped. File for bankruptcy.
Oh, Columbia?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there may be some activities like that, but it may be early days. So
But regardless, we're gonna fight for the community and try to help to make sure that we can have these kind of agreements, not just this one paid attention to, but continue to have these agreements in the future, and that we can
save as many people as possible in our community from the crazy rate hikes that have been happening.
Yeah.
Okay, did we agree to this? So all in favor
Yep,
of
we did that.
agreeing to the time to refund? Great. So the next item is a purchase of,
Can I just,
yep,
we skipped we skipped number 5.
oh, sorry,
Mm.
let me go over that. Basically, that's a draft that we all have to review, and we will share with our attorney, but we're not ready to take any action on this resolution. But this is basically that same concept that we've discussed for a little bit
Right.
now. The idea of expanding who can serve on boards and commissions beyond just the village, that it could include residents outside the village within the town, provided that there's still a village majority.
Right,
So that will be on our comeback agenda.
okay.
So then item 7, we had staff from our public works department doing a really fantastic job of exploring options in terms of purchasing refurbished meters and doing their search to see how much new pay stations would cost. So the only thing that I want to change, though, is in this memo. There had been discussion because the building owner at Zero Place has 7 parking spots, and they need some sort of parking enforcement to turn the spots over. So what I would like to do, because I've spent so much time looking at all these different options in terms of pay stations and meters and parking apps, I think we should explore the idea just for that section for it to be app only. So this way we're not investing significantly in terms of the cost of the hardware. And then straight out the gate, the folks who use that area for parking will be used to the app. And what's great about several of these app companies, but the one that I think we will probably end up contracting with will be Park Mobile. Is they're very technologically sophisticated and user friendly, and they just make the whole parking experience actually a lot easier. But I think those 7 spots, instead of installing meters, just install a few signs that say that's the way you pay for the parking. I mean, some communities have moved that to app only for everything.
Right,
Yeah.
that was what I was gonna ask about, because I thought we were discussing at some point, trying to figure out pay stations or apps to cover more of the village.
Yeah.
So we're not there yet, and it makes sense to make this investment, you feel like, in the refurbished meters in the meantime?
Yeah, I think we should use the refurbished meters for a lot of the spots within the village where we have meters that are pretty long in the tooth, but I think it's really a multi-pronged approach. We should have refurbished meters, app, and kiosks. The kiosk has been working really well. The kiosks in the Platico Avenue lot, as well as the kiosk in the lot in front of the post office. Knock on wood, we had pretty good success, whereas the previous kiosk at the Platico lot was a lot more problematic.
So again, I'm curious why we're not gonna try to do more of the app or kiosks rather than buying these refurbished meters.
Well, the kiosks are our least favorite, because unless you have a spot where you can install lots of parking
Right, it
spots,
makes no sense.
it's very
And we couldn't
expensive.
find any spots really that made the most
Yeah.
sense. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So then why not the app? Or we were curious if more people won't have.
Because I think like on Main Street, New Paltz, you probably will need to have spots that folks use meters at.
Mhm.
I don't think we're ready to just jettison all meters. I think having some meters, like basically the app will be available everywhere.
It will, because that was my curiosity
Yeah,
is,
so app works on meters, app works on kiosks,
oh,
and
it'll
then we
work
have
on
to-
these refurbished meters.
Yeah.
Okay,
100%.
okay, that's what I was curious about, because for people who don't have change in their pockets and want to be able to, and are used to using apps in other places and are like, what the heck is this?
Yeah,
That could be
app-
problematic.
that's no problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I wasn't
The
clear
only
about.
more challenging thing, this is where we've spent so much time trying to get this correct, is like the fees and integrating with our financial software and integrating with the banks and the
Right.
merchants of records. Like,
Right.
big cities have people who do this stuff full time.
Right, right,
We have a skeleton crew and me, it's like.
right. Yeah. No, you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, but what's great about the apps is you could just keep all the old
Mhm.
crappy meters, but it's not reasonable to. You can't, like,
Does
the
it say
meter's
on the
not work,
meters
the
that you
meter
can
has
use the
to
app as
work.
well?
Yes, it will. All the meters will have the app sticker.
Great.
Yeah.
That's
In
great. So there are
addition, yeah.
choices. I love that. Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think choices make sense with our community.
And then I saw that within what was given to us, that they believe we should go up to $1 an hour.
yeah, so we're already $1 an
Oh,
hour
okay.
in the kiosks, and
Okay.
no one has ever batted an eye.
Yeah, I
And
don't think, I
basically,
think
the
that's fair.
$1 an hour is customary
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's more in a lot of
Yeah.
places.
Yeah.
It's a lot more. in a
Depending
lot
on
of
a lot of
places.
places.
So I just read it and wanted to make sure
Yeah.
I was fully understanding. Thank you.
But this, I'm super pleased with our staff who were able to chase down this opportunity. I believe these meters are manufactured by a company called McKay, and they're based in Canada, whereas there's really not too many companies that make parking meters at this point.
Right.
And then the other options that we thought were available were basically ones with rechargeable batteries, where the battery would only last a day or two. So we probably need a full-time staff just running around
Which we
charging
can't do,
batteries all
yeah.
day long. Whereas these McKay meters use more conventional batteries that last a very long time, similar to our water meters or anything else, as opposed to a rechargeable battery. And then McKay is considered a super reliable company, probably because it's Canadian and privately owned. But these meters were purchased by this company after New York City got rid of theirs and moved away from having any meters of this vintage at all.
I like how we're, helping to keep municipal parking meters out of landfills, or scrap.
That doesn't hurt.
piles.
Yeah.
And the other brand, Duncan, that's the one that was purchased by a Behemoth, and then the only way to use a Duncan meter at this point is if you use the rechargeable battery. So unfortunately, Duncans are not really an option for us anymore because we don't have layers of staff to run around and replace rechargeable meters. So my motion is to accept the suggestion from our DPW staff to buy the 80 refurbished parking meters and the 2 pay stations. But I also just want to make it clear that we do app only in front of zero place. I think that would be wise. And then we can just use these refurbished meters throughout the rest of the field. I think we have a total of 262 parking meters and currently 2 pay stations. So now we'll still have 262, but now we'll have 4 pay stations.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Bill. And then the next item is the green infrastructure installation at the corner of Elting and Mohawk Ave. So we got bids back from a few different contractors to do the work at the corner of Elting and Mohawk. And the low bid was Legacy. They were also the low bid for the water main project that we're doing on Prospect. I met with those guys today during the signing process to begin that project on Prospect. So we're going to award the GI project to Legacy. That's my motion. Does someone want to second it? All in favor?
Aye.
And then the next item is related to sewer remediation and the advertising of the bid for the 2021 CDBG sewer project on June 28th, with the opening of bids on July 19th. So this is basically a grant that was awarded to us last year. The bid docs will be available starting June 28th, and then we'll open the documents on the 19th. And that's for a few different sections of sewer. So, like most of these projects, they scale in over time. And then B is the CDBG 2022 application process to designate myself as the certifying officer for the village consent order compliance or remediation identified by, this stuff. I don't exactly know how it works, but it's all here to be processed accordingly. And so second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and it's all just related to applying to get grant money to fix sewer mains. The next item is the intermunicipal agreement between the town and the village, because the town has hired a contractor to do the watering of the plants on Main Street. So they're going to use the village's utility gator, and the village is providing water, make sure that those plants that were purchased from Walkfield View Farms with the help of the town's community improvement team. And then the one thing with that IMA, which I think it is silent on, is the stipulation that we asked for, and that insurance be provided. So that was provided right away, but it's just not in this IMA. So we're just going to have this run this all by our attorney to make sure that the appropriate insurance is discussed within the IMA. So no action to take right now. Next item is budget mod and amendments. I motion to move this item.
Second.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Bill. And I move bills and claim resolutions 5C and 6N together. Someone want to second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You have a planning board liaison update to share.
Yeah, last night's June 21st planning board meeting was canceled. They'll meet next on July 5th. And the county planning board has not met since my last report.
Okay, thanks. Any recent ZBA activity?
Yeah. So the public hearing for 123 Main Street has been closed, and it may be reopened if there isn't a settlement that we're working on. Also, the 5 Plattekill Avenue public hearing was closed as well.
Which project's 5 Plattekill Ave?
That's New Paltz Really LLC, Keenan.
Okay. Is that where he wanted to expand the former laundrette in the back, and he's making a Mexican restaurant?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Okay. And we are still waiting we're not doing anything with 123 Main Street because we're waiting for the negotiations to
And
continue.
123 Main Street, that's the property behind Burger Box.
Yeah.
Where there was a stop work order because of the tree clearing.
Yeah.
Got it.
Exactly. We were looking at Mannheim Muse, which was going to be on our agenda tonight and is moved to the next month. They were talking about needing 2 different vehicle ingress egress for the property. The ZBA didn't like either of the current options, and so they didn't feel either one was big enough to get an emergency vehicle in, and if something was blocked, it was still gonna be problematic because it would either block both of them or just not be enough. So they want 2 full roads for emergency vehicles to get in and out in case one is blocked. So they're working on coming up with another plan for that. And then at 5 Plattekill, which we were just discussing, they just want to put in a new wall with the same footprint, thickness, height, concrete materials, and it meets codes. So we're just waiting 30 days for the Ulster County Planning Board to comment, and then that'll probably be fine. And that was it.
Good. Thanks for that report.
Yep, thank you.
You think anything else this village board needs to discuss?
Today.
We can call it a night.
We can go on a night for
Yeah.
now.
That's your motion. I
Next
second.
time.
I second Alex's motion to adjourn.
Aye.
All in favor, aye.
Good night, folks.
Thank you.